The Symbolism of Red Lips. W.B. Yeats from Selected Poetry, Before the World Was Made. If I make the lashes dark and the eyes more bright and the lips more scarlet, or ask if all be right from mirror after mirror, no vanities displayed, I'm looking for the face I had before the world was made. What if I look upon a man as though on my beloved? My blood be cold the while, and my heart unmoved. Why should he think me cruel, or that he is betrayed? I'd have him love the thing that was before the world was made. In 1889, W.B. Yeats met Maud Gonne. She was an Irish beauty, ardent and brilliant, and he fell in love with her. Although Maud Gonne liked and admired him, she was not in love with him. But Yeats raised her to goddess-like status, and she became his ideal. Perhaps the only problem was that she was all too human and all too accessible. But Yeats tried, and in her we see a key method used by those well advanced on the spiritual path: love with visualization. Portrait of Anne by L.S. Lowry. Portrait of Anne is a painting by British artist L.S. Lowry. It is one of Lowry's most famous portraits, and its subject appears in many of Lowry's works. Wikipedia. Opinion remains divided as to the identity of the subject and her significance for the artist. Anne was never sold at auction, but instead remained the property of the artist until it was bequeathed to Salford Museum and Art Gallery upon his death in 1976. No one was ever told the true story of Anne. Lowry told the features reporter for the Manchester Guardian that Anne was 25 years old, lived in Leeds, and was the daughter of some people who have been very good to me. The architect and Manchester academician Frank Bradley said that Lowry had told him she was a pupil of his mother's, who had died when she was 25. The artists, Harold Riley and Pat Cook, both claimed that Lowry had told them Anne was a friend from Lytham St Anne's, who died when she was in her early 20s. So here we see yet another use of love with visualization, and Lowry raised his image of a young girl to this status. Ego death. The last stage of the spiritual path is ego death, the annihilation of the ego. But this requires the ego to die voluntarily. So how does it do this? And more important, why should it? Up to this last stage, helpers are always there. And we are pushed, prodded and guided at every other stage. Now we are told by some gurus that this last step in the path is done alone, with not a helper in sight. The ego, figuratively speaking, must commit suicide. But why should it? There is, in all honesty, no reason. Impossible to voluntarily die for God. Anyone who has reached this stage spiritually knows that God is not a father figure. See our video on God. It is pure power, incomprehensible, unknowable, and always will be, as the Bible says in John 1, no man hath seen God at any time. This something may evoke awe, respect, submission and obedience. Thy will be done. But it is no use telling the ego that it must die to or for God, as it will remember only too well what happened to Semele when she was exposed to Zeus. It caused total annihilation, not an ego death. And no ego will ever voluntarily die in this way. It is only able to die for something it can love. Then the ego can figuratively die in the figurative arms of the loved one. And so, through this logic, we can see that ego death is achieved via love with visualization. And this is when a figure who is incapable of being experienced physically, a being who is already loved by you, is raised in your eyes to godlike status. The virgin stays virginal, the man becomes a hero, the saint is raised to godlike status. Someone you admire or admired becomes the focus of your love, total and absolute devotion. And Yeats created Mordgon, and Lowry created Anne. And when they are female, one of the key symbols used is red lips. Red lips and the High Priestess. The High Priestess in the Mysteries had red lips as a sort of badge of office. And it is why the second part of Yeats's poem sounds so cool, because the High Priestess had a job to do, and emotional involvement would not have helped. What if I look upon a man as though on my beloved, and my blood be cold the while, and my heart unmoved? Why should he think me cruel, or that he is betrayed? I'd have him love the thing that was, before the world was made. The Sumerians invented red lipstick as a badge of office for their high priestesses, and Egyptian women fully embraced the concept. But the geisha, perhaps of all the high priestesses, took the symbolism to its most advanced. Alchemy uses black, nigredo, white, albedo, and red, rubedo, and the geisha used all three. See the 3 degrees purification video. and their hair was black, their faces white, and their lips red. So as your ego died, they sealed it with a kiss. John Masefield, Beauty. I have seen dawn and sunset on moors and windy hills, coming in solemn beauty like slow old tunes of Spain. I have seen the Lady April bringing the daffodils, bringing the springing grass and the soft warm April rain. I have heard the song of the blossoms and the old chant of the sea, and seen strange lands from under the arched white sails of ships. But the loveliest thing of beauty God ever has shown to me are her voice and her hair and eyes and the dear red curve of her lips.